I was originally sitting up to have this reflection facing you, looking at you, but rather, this is a difficult topic. It's a tough one. So I decided to use the crucifix, the cross. For we must look at the cross, at the nails, and reflect on them as we look at this topic, above and below. For humans, the above and below are the spiritual and the flesh. But the separations have become the poor and the wealthy. And what they have created over centuries is the separation of classes at worship. Having the poor worship separately of the wealthy through acts of the church, big C, is a direct violation of the word and spirit of the Lord's teachings. We are one body. And though the separations of the classes were fought against within some churches, small c, others actively worked to continue the separations of the classes. The justifications for these individual churches to do this was, quote, the wealthy give more if they're not bothered during the worship by the sight of those who are in need, or of a child in obvious poverty, but still happy with its mummy. Close quote. Too often the local church, rather than working to reduce the separation by assisting the poor to participate and come to services, participate in activities, instead drive them away by haranguing them with fees, with campaign after campaign after campaign for fundraising, both at services and at home, via email, and even via bloody text. Some welcome that is, you're so poor you can't come here anymore because we only ask for money. We're going to shame you at home. We're going to shame you at worship. We're going to shame you. Christ specifically wanted there to be no financial barrier to worship, to join, to participate, or for the sacraments. Unfortunately, some churches see only income, not their mission. Ministers lose their faith, cannot see Christ any longer for the spreadsheets and budgets in the way. I know of a few right off, as they refused me my funeral. A disabled indigent person, a Christian burial, who was having donated musicians, donated pastoral services. All I needed was the bloody church. But the pastor of the church, even the church where I was a member, refused me the use of, quote, his church. His church. He literally said, you cannot use my church, for the lack of prepayment of $500 just to do a 1-hour mass. $500. And all we were doing was holding the mass there. And then we were leaving again. We weren't having any luncheon or anything there. We were just having the bloody mass. I noted to him his lack of faith, lack of focus, mission. And as a person of faith, his lack of ministerial mission and focus on a Christian who doesn't ask for money from someone who he personally knew had lived below the poverty level for over 15 years. His response was, I quote, "I have a fine mission, but I have to keep this building operating and keep programs running, so we set our fees accordingly. Yep, lots of management there, but nothing of Christ." And that's too often the case of ministers after a point. They are entirely of the earth, banking and management, and have no longer any connection to heaven. Quote, "And Christ ran the money changers from the temple." Quote, "The wicked do their work in darkness." Quote, "Whoever disobeys the Son will not see life, but the wrath of God remains upon him." And a final note about the saint of today. Saint Athanasius of Alexandria, also known as Saint Athanasius the Confessor, also known as Athanasius the Great, was a Christian theologian, a great church father, the chief defender of Trinitarianism. Try saying that fast. A defender against Arianism, and a noted Egyptian leader of the 4th century AD. Trinitarianism is the policy or the theology of the three co-equal God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Arianism, which was started by the man Arius, A-R-I-U-S, is that God the Father is high and no one is equal with him. This is why the Nicene Creed is spoken the way it is, because that occurred in the 4th century and was in direct response to Arius and Arianism. Because Arius said, yes, Jesus was a holy person, but he was a saint, but he was not equal of God. And if he was a son of God, he was only, quote, only one of his begotten children. He was not any greater than any of the other children of God. And he also said that the Holy Spirit was not equal to God. They were not consubstantial, like we say in the Creed, in the profession of faith now, but that God was greater than everybody, and it was just God. That's why Arianism, God, and he fought against all of them. Arianism rejected Jesus, the equal divinity of God, and it was a threat because this denied the central belief of the Holy Trinity, the belief in our redemption and the divine nature of Jesus Christ. I just realized I wrote that down. Sorry. And this gentleman, Athanasius, was the 20th bishop of Alexandria. So he was quite the dude. I encourage you to look him up. He was a Coptic Christian. C-O-P as in Paul, T as in Tom, I-C, Coptic. And it's a different sect of Christianity. Look it up. They're very interesting. These are the people that have been killed practicing their religious faith in Egypt. Okie doke. Talk to you tomorrow.